meeting at Central Administration Building to order March 28, 2018, 6:01 p.m. And this is a special session for personnel matters. I would ask everybody at this time to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll, please.
Sure. Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Present.
Ms. Gass? Ms. McGowan? Here. Mrs. Momini? Yes. I can't remember to say yes after I call my own name. Okay, Ms. Belly and Ms. Seats.
Here. Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum. Item C on the agenda, approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion at this time for approval for the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I need a support.
Support.
I have a motion and a support for the agenda as presented. Any comments or questions at this time concerning the agenda? If none, Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. McGowan? Yes. Mrs. Momini? Yes. Ms. Seats?
Yes.
And Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. At this time, public comment, item D on the agenda, and I see we have no one here at this time for public comment. So we'll move right into agenda items. Item 2, human resources. And I will turn that over to Ms. Baptiste.
Thank you, President. I believe it was the direction of the attorney that I will read each staff report, and then I will read one resolution inserting all of the names, and you all will then vote at that point. So staff report number 1, non-renewal of administrative contract. Reason for board consideration: the board must vote to consider the non-renewal of the administrative contract for Brian Scoggin. Facts and analysis: in order to meet the timeline set by the revised school code for the non-renewal of administrative contracts, the board must notify Mr. Brian Scoggin that consideration is being given to the non-renewal of his administrative contract. The recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education adopts the attached resolution to notify Brian Scoggin by April 1st, 2018, of the consideration for non-renewal of his administrative contract. I will go on to staff report number 2, non-renewal of the administrative contract. Reason for board consideration: the board must vote to consider the non-renewal of the administrative contract for Rita CA. Facts and analysis: in order to meet the timeline set by the revised school code for the non-renewal of administrative contracts, the board must notify Rita CA that consideration is being given to the non-renewal of her administrative contract. Recommended action: that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education adopts the attached resolution to notify Rita CA by April 1st, 2018, of the consideration for non-renewal of her administrative contract. Staff report number 3, non-renewal of administrative contract. Reason for board consideration: the board must vote to consider the non-renewal of the administrative contract for Sharonda Pearson. Facts and analysis: in order to meet the timeline set by the revised school code for the non-renewal of administrative contracts, the board must notify Sharonda Pearson that consideration is being given to the non-renewal of her administrative contract. Recommended action: that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education adopts the attached resolution to notify Sharonda Pearson by April 1st, 2018, of the consideration for non-renewal of her administrative contract. Staff report 4, non-renewal of administrative contract. Reason for board consideration: The board must vote to consider the non-renewal of the administrative contract for Donald Pearson. Facts and analysis. In order to meet the timeline set by the revised school code for the non-renewal of administrative contracts, the board must notify Donald Pearson that consideration is being given to the non-renewal of his administrative contract. The recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education adopts the attached resolution to notify Donald Pearson by April 1st, 2018 of the consideration for non-renewal of his administrative contract. Finally, staff report number 5, non-renewal of administrative contract. Reason for board consideration. The board must vote to consider the non-renewal of the administrative contract for John David Van Dyke. Facts and analysis. In order to meet the timeline set by the revised school code for the non-renewal of administrative contracts, the board must notify John David Van Dyke that consideration is being given to the non-renewal of his administrative contract. The recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education adopts the attached resolution to notify John David Van Dyke by April 1st, 2018 of the consideration for non-renewal of his administrative contract. So at this time, I will read the resolution. I will insert the 5 names and not read this 5 times. Whereas Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke are employed as administrators with the Benton Harbor Area Schools pursuant to a contract of employment for the term of 1 year, which contract shall expire and terminate on June 30th, 2018, and Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson has presented the Board of Education with a written recommendation dated March 28th, 2018, that it considered non-renewal of the contract of employment of Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke as administrators for the Benton Harbor Area Schools, and the Board of Education, after review and consideration of the recommendation of the board president and the reasons set forth therein, has determined that there is sufficient reason to consider non-renewal of Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke's contract of employment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Benton Harbor Area Schools determines that there is sufficient reason to consider non-renewal of the contract of employment of Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke as administrators for the Benton Harbor Area Schools. The Board of Education authorizes and directs the Assistant Superintendent, Patricia Robinson, to provide Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke with written notice of this resolution stating that the Board of Education is considering non-renewal of his or her contract as an administrator for the Benton Harbor Area Schools, together with a written statement of the reasons the Board of Education is considering non-renewal. Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson is further directed to notify Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke that he or she shall be given the opportunity to meet with not less than a majority of the Board of Education to discuss the reasons stated in the written statement in an open or closed session at his or her option. Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson is hereby authorized to establish the date, time, and place of the meeting to discuss the reasons set forth in the written statement. The reasons for consideration of non-renewal of the administrative contracts of Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke shall be those reasons contained Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson's letter to the Board of Education dated March 28, 2018, said reasons being hereby incorporated by reference and adopted by the Board of Education as its own reasons for considering the non-renewal Brian Scoggin, Rita C.A., Sharonda Pearson, Donald Pearson, and John David Van Dyke. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded.
We have before us 5 staff reports, and we have a resolution that has just been read by Ms. Baptiste. This time I will entertain a motion for acceptance of the read resolution.
So moved.
I have a motion and I'm entertaining a support.
Support.
I have a motion and a support. At this time, are there any questions or concerns about staff report number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or the resolution that has been read? We have no questions or concerns. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mrs. McGowan,
Yes.
Mrs. Mamini, yes. Ms. Seats,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The motion carries. At this time, item number 3, voting on district matters. That will be Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson at this time.
Thank you, Madam President. So what I will do, I'll read the staff report, and then I'll read the resolution for each item. Okay. And then that's it. So staff report number 6. Reason for consideration: the changes to facility usage for the 2018-2019 school year need to be brought to the Board of Education for approval. Facts and analysis: the district has decided to move all of the kindergarten classes to the Discovery Enrichment Center for the 2018-2019 school year. Recommended action: that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education votes to allow the district to move all kindergarten classes to the Discovery Enrichment Center for the 2018-2019 school year. The resolution: whereas the board has reviewed its financial and staffing information for the 2018-2019 school year, and whereas the board has identified several advantages to merging kindergarten classes into the Discovery Enrichment Center for the 2018-2019 school year. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby finds that moving all kindergarten classes to the Discovery Enrichment Center for the 18-19 school year is in the best interest of the student. All resolutions and parts of resolutions, insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution, be and the same, are hereby rescinded.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Staff report number 6 has been read to this board. The resolution has been read. I will at this time entertain a motion for acceptance.
Madam President, I make a motion to accept the resolution read by Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson and the approval of staff report number 6.
Thank you, trustee. I need to entertain in support at this time for that motion.
Support.
I have a motion and a support for staff report number 6. Any questions, comments at this time before we call the roll? If no questions or comments, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mamini, yes. Ms. Seats,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
and Ms. McGowan.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Motion carries. Yes.
Staff report number 7. Reason for board consideration: the changes to facility usage for the 2018-2019 school year need to be brought to the Board of Education for approval. Facts and analysis: the district has decided to move the 3rd grade students from MLK to Hall. This is being done to equalize the population of students between the 2 schools. Recommended action: that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the district to move the 3rd grade students from MLK to Hall. The resolution: whereas the board and the state treasurer entered into a consent agreement on September 23rd, 2014, and whereas the district is still in a deficit and must comply with the financial operating plan of the consent agreement, and whereas the board recognizes that it must take all reasonable steps to reduce its deficit and has evaluated all financial information. Sorry, that was the wrong one.
I'm sorry.
Whereas the board has reviewed each of the district school buildings and evaluated the student population from all district schools, and whereas the board is currently in a deficit and is committed to using building space in a reasonable manner, and whereas the board has considered information from STEAM at MLK and International Academy at Hull. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby decides to move third grade STEAM at MLK students to the International Academy at Hull beginning in the 2018-2019 school year for financial reasons. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent. We have a resolution for staff report number 7. At this time, I will entertain a motion for support.
Moved.
I have a motion. I will entertain a support, a second for this motion.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns at this time for staff report number 7? Yes, Trustee Mitchell.
What was decided about the 4th and 5th graders and who made that decision?
They would stay at MLK. And so it's a recommendation from our leadership team.
It would even out the population
even
between
out.
the two buildings, so that you don't have a really high amount in one building and a lesser amount in the other building.
Any other questions concerning staff report number 7? Trustee Mitchell?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no more questions or comments, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Nomini, yes. Ms. Seats,
Yes,
and Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Robinson.
Staff report number 8. Reason for board consideration, the changes to facility usage for the 2018-2019 school year need to be brought to the Board of Education for approval. Facts and analysis, the district has decided to close Dream Academy due to financial constraints. The Dream students will be integrated into the Benton Harbor High School student population. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the district to close Dream Academy and move those students from Dream into the Benton Harbor High School. Resolution. Whereas the board has reviewed its facilities and decided to integrate Dream Academy, alternative high school of choice, into Benton Harbor High School, beginning with the 2018-2019 school year. And whereas the board is currently in a deficit in closing Dream Academy, alternative high school of choice, will result in substantial cost savings. And whereas the board has considered all information regarding the closure of Dream Academy, alternative high school of choice, and the impact of the decision. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby decides to close Dream Academy, alternative high school of choice, and integrate the students attending Dream Academy, alternative high school of choice, into Benton Harbor High School for financial reasons. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Staff report number 8, we have resolution. I will at this time entertain a motion for support.
Make a motion to accept staff report number 8 and the resolution as read.
Second.
I'll support.
Have a motion and a support. At this time, we will entertain any questions, comments, or concerns. I do have a question. So Dream Academy is folding into the Benton Harbor High School facility.
Correct.
As far as folding in, what does that look like? Are we talking about on the 3rd floor? Or are we talking about just folding and blending them into the general population? How is that going to look?
We are speaking to folding those students into the high school, the Benton Harbor High School population. So they will attend the same courses and classes as the students who are currently in the high school.
Okay, so what are we doing with the 3rd floor then? I think we originally had it.
But we left that number of students increasing. Will you need part of the 3rd floor?
We
Well, that would take the population just over 600 and something, it would be 700 students. So you could stretch it out and move it out where we would utilize the third floor. We did utilize the third floor during the school year. We had science courses up there, so you could expand it. It's just at that time, I believe, I don't know who decided or what came about to close the third floor, but this school year was used.
It was used for what purpose?
There were classes up on the third
There
floor.
were classes. Okay. Because the last I had heard, the third floor had been closed.
It's closed. It was at the beginning of the school year, there were classes on the third.
Okay.
Well, I don't know why there were classes on the third floor. You know, we just spent $500,000 on science rooms on the second floor, and they sat vacant all year. So, you know, I don't understand the reasoning and the logic behind any of that.
I'm sorry, about the third floor not being utilized? Or
And the second
And
floor
the second
science
floor.
rooms
I agree.
not being
Totally
utilized,
agree.
except by 21st century after-school program.
Okay, what is the method of notification to the Dream Academy students and family, letting them know, other than by this means, that there is going to be a change?
So, Mr. James, who is the administrator at the school, he usually does a community forum with his students. So that would be a forum for the students. We will notify the parents. We'll have a meeting for parents at the school. So we need to have a community forum with them as well and notify them in person. Those parents who do not attend those meetings, we will send out letters, personal letters to them. Once that's done, we'll also post it on our website and also do a roll call to the families. But we want to first try to make some contacts individually with the parents and kind of in person. We also do need to set up with the students meetings with the counselors that are at the high school so we can make it a good transition for them.
Mr. Mitchell?
What is the plans for Fairplain East?
That building will be closed and will be included in the plan, the real estate plan, and just the real estate plan right now is put on hold. So for the 18-19 school year, it'll be closed.
And do you know offhand how much funds we expended in that building this past year, 2 years?
And that I don't know.
Yeah,
As far as technology, facility-wise, is that what you're?
You know,
upgrades and things
technology,
like that?
facility-wise, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, because that may be something, to Mr. Mitchell's point, because it's a building that state law doesn't require you to do anything, right? So you can essentially move some students into that building, you know, within the timeline, these several years. So
Yes.
we don't want it to sit too vacant because you may find a way to utilize it.
Yeah, we repurpose it, and if we do, we need to do it within the timeline.
Correct. And then we also need to make sure that if it is closed for the year, that we have either the heat on, thinking about the pipes and things like that.
Right.
So.
And so I do think we need to further the conversation about the third floor of the high school and how that's going to be, again, a lot of money was invested for.
I have one more question, Mr.
Yes,
Mitchell.
Mr.
We know that third floor has all new heating and AC, right? And we had an issue, I think, on the first floor with heating issues. So it would be more conducive even if it was more utilized second, third floor. Would you say so?
I would, but, you know, and I don't know how things changes. But when I left the meeting the other night, I thought we were incorporating Dream into the third floor
I did.
and not into
That
the
was my
general,
understanding.
not into the general population of the school.
That was my understanding.
So where and when did it change?
I know I recommended that they be folded and integrated into the high school, considering the size that the high school is now. And we would also have to staff that with additional teachers for each content area, which we're struggling now to have certified teachers.
That's what I thought I heard you say
Yes.
last night. Because then that would put more constraints, right, with teachers and everything else, because I think what we're moving them because of the cost savings, right? And now that they can have all counselors, gym, science, all extracurricular.
But I still did think, based on what we had discussed, that they were still separate, but separate but equal. That was my understanding, and that the third floor was gonna be utilized, so I don't,
Why do we need the moniker Dream anymore? They just become Benton Harbor High School students.
oh, they will be Benton Harbor High School students, but still, if you're gonna bring 100 and some students into the high school, I mean, we don't wanna overcrowd the classes either. We wanna utilize the third floor.
Right? I
That
understand.
was the basic purpose. Oh, no, they're Benton Harbor Tigers. That was why it was suggested in the first place, trustee.
So the moniker Dream would go away. I mean, they just be Benton Harbor Area School, high school,
Correct.
correct?
Right.
Okay.
That means, so they can't be separate, because
We're
that's,
talking about the floor.
well, even before, but then you would have to implement the Benton Harbor area school students now and Dream on that floor. It could just be Dream because they're not a separate
That's not
entity.
a problem.
But I agree, let's utilize the floor.
I don't think that's a problem. I just don't want to have classes overcrowded, because we're still bringing 110 kids over.
Well, that's what we need. to
Believe
use
me,
it for then.
you have plenty of
You got
room.
tons of room.
Yes, yeah.
Tons of room in the
Yeah.
classes.
Yes,
And I
So
was
then
there.
Okay, so then if there's no blending issue, then we're fine with the motion and the support.
Yes, just let me know that they become Benton Harbor High School students.
Oh, absolutely. They've been Harbor Tigers. So, okay, we have a motion and a support. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Seeks,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
yes.
Ms. McGowan,
Yes.
Mrs. Momini, yes. Did I skip someone? Okay,
Motion carried.
so,
Okay, staff report number 9, Ms. Robbins.
Staff report number 9, reason for board consideration. The changes to facility usage for the 2018-2019 school year need to be brought to the Board of Education for approval. Facts and analysis. The district has decided to move the central administration office to MLK due to financial constraints. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the district to move the central administration office to MLK. Resolution. Whereas the board and the state treasurer entered into a consent agreement on September 23rd, 2014, and whereas the district is still in a deficit and must comply with the financial operating plan in the consent agreement, and whereas the board recognizes that it must take all reasonable steps to reduce its deficit and has evaluated all financial information. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby decides to move central administration offices to STEAM at MLK, beginning with the 2018-2019 school year for financial reasons. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution, being and the same, are hereby rescinded.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Staff report number 9, we have a resolution. I need a motion for acceptance.
so moved.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Support.
I have a support. Any questions, comments, or concerns at this time on staff report number 9?
Good utilization of space, cost saving, we're heating the building anyways. So there's not a loss of funds there, that's a savings.
Is there a boardroom in MLK? Is there space for, or would this function go away and all be handled at high school?
There is space at the MLK on the first floor. There's a large room, I believe right now it's a 5th grade room.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking of. In fact, we talked about it earlier, I said something about the top floor, but we may need to look at it and decide whether first floor works best or the second floor. I mean, there's smaller offices upstairs, but the one that could be used as a boardroom is right downstairs, right inside that front door. So we'll have to just.
Okay. Any other
Look at the map.
questions? Questions or comments? Yes, trustee Mitchell.
Do you feel parking is gonna be an issue? Because I see it right now, the front lot is full, there's limited space in back of the building. So just let it be known, parking may be an issue.
Yeah, we don't want to park it up a block.
On the
no.
road. Yeah. That would definitely be something that's an issue.
For board meetings though, you can always do your, you're talking about the
During
city administration.
During the day,
During the day.
during the school day and work day.
Stan?
That would be an issue, although it's just 4th and 5th grade classes
Yeah.
here. So
So
it'd be
there's all the
less,
staff from the 3rd grade. And then maybe where,
it'll still be a concern.
yeah,
We may have to park.
but maybe administration can park in the back, because we're talking about putting 5 of them on those doors in the back anyway. And then you can park in the back and come in that way.
I do, there's a lot across the street. The old 777 building.
That's even smaller
That's
than
even
what you
smaller
have.
that we could park. Parking spaces.
Unless you go on that 3rd floor at the high school. And then you got plenty of parking. That's just
That's
a,
a suggestion earlier too.
Mhm.
that's just a thought. I mean, it's already new.
I like that.
It's already offices.
And then we just have to consider how will people get there upstairs, the entryway. But you're right, the parking, that wouldn't be an issue. The parking.
You have safety, you have security, metal detector, you have everything at high school too.
And an elevator.
And,
Okay.
So if that's the case,
I like
I make a secondary motion.
Okay, we do have a, secondary motion. I'll entertain that motion, and that motion is Mr. Taylor.
Motion to move central administration to the high school 3rd floor.
Okay. All right, I have a motion to move central, I have a support. Any questions, comments, or concerns at this time? Moving central office to the high school, which would be in the next school year. No questions, no comments, no concerns. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. McGowan,
Yes.
Mrs. Mommy, yes. Ms. Seats.
Yes. Okay, at this time, Madam Secretary, motion carries. There are no board president comments, assistant superintendent comments.
Yeah.
And we will start with comments from the board. Trustee Momini, any announcements, comments, and don't forget about tomorrow night also.
Tomorrow night, duh. Okay, yes. Tomorrow night will be the celebration.
Yeah.
For the team, and then we can go to the library for a reception first, before the parade takes place. And Ms. West sent an invitation for you to click yes or no. And then we do have a meeting, Thursday, April 5th at 7 o'clock here at Central Administration.
That's 7 o'clock.
And
At 7 o'clock, yes, and
if
unusual
we can
time.
get, did you get that out, attorney-client privilege? Okay. And, no staff is needed at that time.
Including me.
Will be the secretary,
No staff.
no staff.
She's gonna make me take the notes.
That's, you said 7 o'clock?
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be at 7, that's correct. Any other announcements, trustee Moon? Comments?
No.
Trustee, McGowan?
No comments.
No comments. Trustee Taylor?
No comments.
No comments. Trustee Mitchell?
No.
Okay, thank you. There are no comments from the board. We will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and a support. Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Momini, yes. God, they can't get used to that. Look, I'm taking lots of Benadryl, I can't help it. Remember the seats.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Meeting is adjourned.